Good, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us at this second quarter webinar brought to you by Diplo. And we now, as has been said in previous meetings, that Diplo has an office in Nairobi, and therefore easier to communicate within the African continent. So we believe that you have had time to look at the documentation shared with you. And today we're going to be discussing cyber diplomacy in Africa, regional, national, and continental initiatives. So thank you very much for spending your time this afternoon with us. We invite you to place your comments on the chat. You can say where you're coming from or where you're logging in from. And if you have an interesting question to the panelists, you're most welcome to share it in the chat. This meeting is also being captioned, so if you'd like to follow the captioning, please put it on, and you will be able to follow the discussions as we have them going forward. So today we'll be discussing cyber diplomacy in Africa, and it's a very topical issue because we have seen a lot of changes within the African continent, whether it's diplomatic or otherwise. We are looking forward to having the discussants share their opinions and areas of interest that they would with us. And so right now I'm going to invite our CEO and founder of DiploFoundation, Jovan Kubalia, to start us off with the opening remarks. Thank you and welcome everyone. Thank you, Jovan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mavende. It's great to join you online from Geneva. As you can see, I have to dress very summerly because the temperature here is 38 degrees. It's very, very hot these days in Geneva. Therefore, if you are coming for the WSIS and AI week on the 6th of July, prepared really for the tropical heat in Geneva. It's my great pleasure to address this meeting, and whenever these issues on diplomacy, cyber tech, digital, online, there are so many prefixes are discussed, we have to start from very common sense question. And the common sense question is how countries, communities, and citizens represent their interests in digital and AI realm in international negotiations. How are Kenyan interests represented in international negotiations? How South African and other interests? This is the underlying question. As a matter of fact, I think we will soon lose prefix cyber digital tech diplomacy, and it will be just diplomacy. People gathering to discuss standards, cooperation, security, and other issues, as people are discussing anyway without technology. In a way, we will close the circle. Diplo started this organization that 3 decades ago that focused on digital, ICT, and other diplomacies. But nowadays, as technology is becoming part of our daily life and impacts everything, from our entertainment to our security, it is becoming just diplomacy. This is the first point that I would like to advance, and that we are not confused that much if the right name is cyber or tech or digital diplomacy, as you can hear in current discussions. It is just diplomacy. Diplomacy as a representation of interests, negotiation, and basically everything which is listed in the Article 3 of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Now, keeping this in mind, we have to discuss today how African interests, social, economic, political securities, are represented on the continental level, on the regional, continental, African level, and the global level. Are African diplomats active into negotiation, let's say, on the AI, on digital, on cyber? They are more and more active. That's the fact. but still not sufficiently to reflect the specific interests of the countries and continents. Why is this important, particularly now? We are at the point where there is a scramble, not scramble for Africa historically, but scramble for knowledge. And this scramble is happening everywhere. It's happening in the United States, in Europe, in China, and in Africa. And the ultimate question is, how African knowledge of societies, indigenous knowledge, experience and expertise of people, sometimes the humor. I always love the Kat Gaetao humor, which is always refreshing. There are so many artifacts, tacit and explicit, that we should somehow preserve and protect. Is Africa ready for that? Where is African knowledge stored? When you ask ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever, are African developing their own solutions? Not necessarily large language models. Everybody is impressed by large language models, but I argue that they are not that critical. It's good to have them, but other things, storing the knowledge graphs, ontologies, taxonomies, non-technical issues are becoming critical. And this is the underlying question. Are African diplomats currently prepared to negotiate preservation of African knowledge? And I'm insisting knowledge, not data. Knowledge is much more than data. That's the first question. There was clarification about terminology. There is a question, what is the purpose of diplomatic activities? And let's say more operational question. Negotiations are happening now. Nairobi will be the center of the developments in December, where it will host the Internet Governance Forum. Next month, there will be quite a few events here in Geneva. AI for Good, AI Dialogue, and World Summit on Information Society forums. How African countries are going to be represented in multi-stakeholder way by governments, by civil society, by technical community. This is a question that we should discuss. We should have a vision how Africa should prepare for an AI knowledge-centered era. But as Chinese saying goes, the whole journey starts with the first step. What can be done next month? What can be done in Nairobi in December? That would be my sort of initial comments to kick off this discussion on behalf of Diplo, and to see if over the next 50 minutes we can gain a bit more clarity, moving beyond general notions that technology changes diplomacy. Yes, we know it, but how to make this change practical and concrete. Over to you, Melinda.
Thank you, Jovan, for that insight. And with that, we will invite Dr. Kate Gaetao to continue on with the discussion that we have ahead of us. Dr. Gaetao, please come in. Thank you.
Okay. Greetings to everyone. I'm in a slightly strange environment, so you'll forgive my video and audio quality. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's very good. So thank you, Professor Kubalia. And with me, I also have 3 panelists who are going to discuss that very important issue of representing African interests on the global stage, and particularly our digital interests. So we're going to start with a poll, because since the whole issue of cyber diplomacy is now almost 30 years old, I think it started in 1998, when several countries recognized the importance of digital in global affairs and started creating forums where it could be discussed. So Arvin, there's just one question, which is, are you aware of some few African, so if you could just click which ones you are familiar with so that we get an idea. Okay, so quite interesting that we can see that there's quite a good knowledge of the Malabo Convention, although it's only half of you. The digital transformation strategy, about a third of you are aware. The African Union position on the applicability of international law in cyberspace, just 14%. The ECOWAS confidence building measures, again, a fifth. COMESA digital initiatives, about a tenth of you are aware of what's happening there. The UNGG, OEWG on international security in cyberspace, just 14%. And a good quarter of you are not aware.
We can see your hand, Kate.
Oh, you can see my hand?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I hope it looks decent. Okay, we're back. Nice. Okay, so all of these are initiatives. I'm sorry, it keeps coming back to sharing the results. Arvin, maybe you can stop it. Okay, so all of these are important initiatives that have taken place in and around Africa. And now our four panelists, Yovan Kubalia, the gentleman from COMESA, there's Miriam from ATU, and there's Dr. Ndemo from the University of Nairobi, but very well known in IT circles. Very much appreciated here in Kenya. He really set us off on this journey 25 years ago or so. So I'll kindly request the panelists to introduce themselves in 1 minute each, so that we can then go on to the discussion about how well African interests are being represented in cyberspace. We'll start with the other way around. I'll start with Dr. Ndemo, and then COMESA, ATU, and I think you're all familiar with Professor Yovan, that he can also say something at the end. Dr. Ndemo?
Thank you. Thank you, Daktari, for asking. My name is Bitang Ndemo. I teach at the University of Nairobi, was a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Communication, and recently ambassador to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Ndemo. We can go on to the gentleman from COMESA. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Yes, no, it's fine. Yes, I'm Tapera Henry Chinemute. I work with the COMESA Governance Peace and Security Unit at the COMESA Secretariat in Lusaka. And I'm very happy about this conversation because it's a rare opportunity. Usually we just practice without having opportunities to discuss about maybe ways of improving the cyber diplomacy and so forth. It's usually more of implementation, and you find that most of the times we've been stuck on frameworks without so much innovative ideas on how to ensure that those frameworks are put more effectively into action. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I think we'll discuss more about the initiatives from COMESA. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Henry. I'll just use first names because your second name is quite complex. Then we'll go on. I believe we have Miriam from African Telecommunications Union. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miriam Slimani. I'm the Development Director working for the African Telecommunication Union. I'm also in charge of coordinating the African Common Position for main conferences, mainly ITU conferences, PP, WTDC, WTSA, and of course, we come up with the African Common Position and proposals that we defend as a region. It's mainly telecommunication and digital issues, and also work together closely with AU Commission regarding frameworks and policy frameworks on AI, on data management, and cybersecurity as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Miriam. Jovan, would you like to say anything as we start?
Not necessarily. I'm director of DiploFoundation, head of Geneva Internet Platform. Started the first AI system in 1992. Some of you were not born at that time. It was at that time expert system, and since then doing capacity building for diplomats, many diplomats from African region and small states, small and island states, and trying to reduce lost in translation between diplomats and tech people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ndemo, Itange, Henry, Miriam, and Jovan, and we're looking forward to how you are going to represent African interests during this webinar as we review what Africa has achieved in cyber diplomacy. So we've been in this space, as I said, for quite a while. The space started around the late 1990s, so it's pre-millennial. I don't know whether to say it's a Gen Z process from its age. However, we have been active, and those processes which were listed, and I hope you're going to look them up on the web because I don't want to go over them one by one, but we've been active at the United Nations. We've been active at the African Union. We've been active at the different regions, ECOWAS, COMESA, SADC, East African Community, on considering how Kenya, not Kenya, but Africa can be represented on the world stage in areas of telecommunications, in areas of information technology around the world. So Jovan always expects a joke from me. I'm not sure this is a joke, but many years ago, I was in a quandary because my train had been so delayed that I lost my reservation for a hotel in a new city. So when I got there, they told me, sorry, we've given your room away. So I said, please, please have mercy because I don't know this city. It's after 11 at night. Just give me a room so that tomorrow I can sort myself out. At this point, the only room that was available in that hotel was the honeymoon suite. So they gave me the honeymoon suite. And I went up there, and to my surprise, there was champagne, there were chocolates, there were a bunch of flowers, there was a jacuzzi, and many things. So after I'd been there for a few minutes exploring all these privileges, the receptionist called and she said, Madam, are you happy with the room? Is everything okay? Is anything missing? So I said, the only thing missing is a man. I don't think I can enjoy this honeymoon suite by myself. Now, sometimes I feel as if Africa in cyber diplomacy is like me in that honeymoon suite. All the good things are happening, but they really have nothing to do with the real issues that we are experiencing as Africans on this continent. So I'm just going to ask a few questions in the first round. And maybe I'll start with Dr. Ndemo and ask you, having been at the EU in Belgium and even the University of Nairobi and in the Ministry of ICT, What do you consider to be the most significant achievement of African cyber diplomacy in the last decade?
I am a bit critical because Africa is so much fragmented, and when something is made at the AU level, sometimes at the country level it takes so long to be understood, and the biggest problem emanates from that many of these initiatives are funded by maybe the EU or some other places, and it takes quite a bit. If you look at data, from Malabo Convention, every country went ahead and did their own data protection laws and stuff. There is a disconnect, which I think we need to deal with it. And that can only be dealt with by Africa independently investing in some of these initiatives. If you look at what is happening now about energy requirements and sovereignty, it's a shame. We should have actually started talking about this much earlier. Infrastructure, inclusivity, there are so many things. Until we begin to finance many of these initiatives, we will still have a similar problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ndemo, for pointing out that sometimes a lot is achieved at the AU, but how it percolates to countries does not reflect the gravity of that achievement. So I'll turn to you, Mariam, because you're in the area of telecommunications on the African level. Maybe you have a different viewpoint on what we've achieved so far, and maybe even what you see as the gap.
Thank you. Indeed, I joined the ATU in 2015, and when I started working with the African decision makers regarding the ICT fields, I noticed that at that time, every country was submitting their own proposals. They were not talking to each others. They were not consulting each others. And the first thing we started to do is to create a platform where all our members are invited to start discussing, to highlight their priorities, and to see how to address common interest, how to make our members talking to each others, and also to understand each others and to share their experience, their best practices, their concerns, and come up when submitting our African position to the global fora with one voice, with one, and today I'm happy to say that we are preparing for PP26 next November, and we are sitting together since July 2024, discussing our priorities, discussing our concerns, and pushing for our priorities. We already established the African priorities, having consolidated our views and positions. We are also trying to address the concerns of least developed countries, because we need also to have them on board and try to discuss and to push the agenda, the digital agenda for example, the WSIS agenda, the GDPR agenda, through a common platform with common positions. And we are talking not only to member states as a key, but we are talking also to other regions to coordinate our mutual interest and to also start negotiating and start sharing our common interests and make sure that at the end of these big conferences we achieve our objectives through a very good consensus among ourselves and with the other regions as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Miriam. A ray of hope. It's taken 9 years, but the ATU is bringing countries together to discuss priorities. Maybe I turn to you, Henry, now, representing COMESA. That's a common market which stretches from Egypt right down to South Africa. So on those issues of markets and trade and the things that COMESA discusses, what would be an important development for you? And how are you bringing countries together to emphasize their own priorities?
Thank you so much, Catherine. Maybe first of all, let me say it from another perspective that countries do listen, but sometimes there are several factors that maybe make the public feel maybe that countries are not listening. I've had this experience from COMESA, especially when it comes to issues of trade facilitation, trade integration, and vis-a-vis issues of governance. You tend to realize that when it comes to issues of governance, there's so much scrutiny when it comes to issues of governance, such that sometimes it becomes a little bit slower. But this has not been the news when it comes to issues of trade facilitation or trade integration. For example, COMESA, we have come up with the digital free trade area, which has been negotiated to come up with several tools that are intended to reduce trade barriers, lower transport costs. We have the MVTs that facilitate movements of goods and services using this online tool, e-trade, e-logistics, e-legislation. We have the simplified trade regime digital tools, which have been very much well accepted, including the electronic certificate of origin, so many tools. However, when it comes to issues of governance, because COMESA's initiatives on these issues of cybercrime and trying to regulate cybercrime started way back in 2011, but they did not have so much traction, which is a similar trend even on the continent when it comes to the Malabo Convention, which, as you rightly mentioned, it took 10 years for it to be ratified. So I see that difference. We just don't need to put everything in one blanket. When it comes to trade, from my own understanding and from our own experience, we've moved faster than when we are dealing with issues of which are related to issues of governance. So that's where I can end now. But find that in the region we have so many priorities. Countries are overburdened by many other issues, such that they prioritize and see that maybe these issues that of cyberspace for now, we can maybe reduce the pace of implementation, while some other countries also silently implement because they don't want to expose their vulnerabilities and so forth. It's the nature of countries. But at the end, you just realize that all of them have national cybersecurity strategies. Where did they come from? It was maybe from those regional frameworks that they adopted those strategies to also enhance their national cybersecurity strategies. You will find that they've developed so many digital tools that they are using, but sometimes they like working in silos and also secretly. I don't know for whatever reason, but such is the behavior of member states in some other instances. So it doesn't mean that nothing is being done, but I think it's just the modus operandi. So I would like to have that perspective for now, and we'll continue with our discussion. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Henry, for pointing out that, yes, Africa is able to agree on issues, but the area of digital issues is a little bit lagging, but there is hope. Now, Jovan, I turn to you because Europe is in the honeymoon suite, and they've really emphasized on the issue of digital sovereignty. The US worries about staying a technological leader. What do you think should be keeping Africa awake at night? If you were to guide
there is this word of third world of digital world, and strictly speaking, obviously Europe is much richer than African continent in many respects. But conceptually speaking, it is a third world of AI and digital world, because like African countries, Europe receives technology from outside, and it raised the question of digital sovereignty. Now, therefore, the situation in African continent and European continent is conceptually similar. Obviously, there is a difference in development, wealth, infrastructure, and other things, but conceptually, neither Africa nor Europe has indigenous technology. And that's basically the major problem for both parts. Now, with the latest developments, especially on cloud, but I would say even longer, Europe has been thinking about what is called digital or AI sovereignty, which ultimately boils down, can you have control and say over your infrastructure, data, knowledge, and other things? Now, bad news is that the world is so interconnected that it is increasingly difficult to have that control for anyone. Good news is that some elements and some segments can be under the digital sovereignty. But the first is awareness that countries have to understand that digital is a critical infrastructure of society. I always ask my students, and your colleagues here, you're not students, but this is the question for all of us. Do you know where are the fiber optic cables connecting your respective countries? Submarine or overland if you're a landlocked country. This is like airport or road or railway. This is a critical infrastructure of your society. Now, the last point in this search for sovereignty of whatever sovereignty, there is another good news for both Europe and Africa, I would say, if I can make this parallel. Many other actors were basically in AI hype rush. What is the latest AI model? What is large language model and the other things? And for different reasons, both continents were lagging behind, which is a good news in a sense that large language models are not that critical parts of AI pipeline. Much more can be done and achieved with open source solutions, with so-called RAG, organizing knowledge, organizing taxonomies and ontologies. Therefore, my suggestion for both continents is not to focus that much on having super trooper data farms, AI factories, but go around us in schools and universities and basically develop local systems, open source systems, which are now quite affordable. And I'm saying it with the full authority of Diplo's development. We use in-house systems, and we can switch off Diplo system from the internet and still have AI. It's affordable and it's doable, and it's technically not that difficult to do, but there is no awareness of it. Therefore, instead of chasing the latest large language model, who has more tokens or more parameters, let's start from the immediate steps. At least this is the way how we at Diplo approach it, but I would say it would be good also for Europe and for Africa, whose position we discussed today.
Okay, thank you, Jovan, for that hopeful view that even if we're lagging behind, the opportunities open up for both Europe and Africa are ones that we can take up and find a place in this digital future. Demo once again and ask you, Dr. Demo, that you were living in Europe for several years, and now you're back in Kenya and working with students. What do your students say about the future of Africa in the digital realm, especially given the kind of technological developments that have been happening in the last few years? Just before I came here, I got an alert on my phone that Oracle has shed 21,000 jobs globally. And, you know, I wonder because, you know, at one point, this is where Kenya was really having high hopes that our talent would find a place globally. And yet now with developments in AI and so on, how are their aspirations changing? And how should Africa be working to create international policies that would help us to have a place in this digital future? Dr. Ndemo, please.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, because as a diplomat in the European Union, Europe believes in regulation, and many of you understand that innovation precedes regulation. And I kept on emphasizing that we couldn't have done what we did if we put regulation ahead. And Kate, you remember during M-Pesa, there were two camps. One wanted to create regulation first, even without understanding how it was going to pan out. But we went ahead and managed to get M-Pesa through, and it has disrupted everything. In as much as we learned from that, you still find the funding that we get from the EU usually focuses on to do things EU wants. Like now in Parliament, we have AI legislation in the process. And I've said loudly, I said even today, we must fight it because we don't know what we can come out with AI. Yes, there are risks, but they can be mitigated in the process of trying to understand. We can see the need for AI, especially in education, adaptive education, which is disrupting learning across the world. But here we are working towards to regulate this technology first before we understand, and simply because we have let ourselves down by being dependent on resources from the EU mostly, and that would hurt us in the long run. Everybody wants, again, several studies show that kids do well when you use your mother tongue to teach, because there's some things that in English we are not able to teach properly. I think that evidence is there. We have been saying develop our languages, and that is key to develop those languages. I did an article recently. Several concepts like data or productivity, those are not in our vernacular. They are not within African languages. So when politicians say, I'm going to improve productivity to the citizens, very few understand what they are talking about. And that could hinder progress, because those two terms that I've mentioned are the most consequential in changing our lives. But we still don't see the reason why we should develop our languages in such a way that we can begin to develop, because languages evolve. Even European languages didn't have certain concepts in their vernacular. But they have evolved to develop some, they use the words as they are. For example, French, they would use the word computer, which is computer. Even in Swahili, we are trying to adopt almost the same. But there are several key, we have not evolved our languages in simple language. And we need to evolve the language to take care of emerging concepts, which would mean development or not developing. So we must find a way of financing our development rather than depending. And the reason why I started by saying that the Malabo Convention, for example, it's not known within the countries. The fragmentation itself, it is so severe that the document is developed and kept there. Only academics keep on referring to it. That's why I'm saying we need to change. If we can work towards integration of Africa, which we have every reason to integrate Africa, because now we are beginning to see more trade within intra-Africa. We are trying to find cross-border payments. And then we are undermining the very concepts that would help us to open up Africa, integrate Africa, and see more prosperity than we have seen before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You've really pointed out two important issues, the issue of language, and I understand we are the most language-rich continent with over 2,000 languages. And you've also pointed out how technologies like AI could be used to enhance our education and to solve some of those problems. Now, as I turn to Miriam, ATU, I guess, comes together to discuss issues of telecommunications. Now, I think telecommunications in the future is probably one of the areas that is really going to have to change and evolve. I wonder if one day I'll be able to speak my mother tongue into the phone and somebody in Mauritania will be able to hear what I'm saying in a different language, and so that we can really interact and trade and do things without being limited by language, but at the same time, being able to use our own languages. How is ATU looking at the issue of both indigenous and international technologies in transforming the way that Africans communicate continentally? Miriam.
Yes, thank you, Catherine, for this question. Indeed, we are aware about the richness of our continent. We have diversity of culture, diversity of languages, diversity of the geographical as well. As you may know, Africa is the only country where we have almost 35% of the country is landlocked. So we already started some studies regarding the development of local content. The study is to provide a guideline to our members to improve the digital development content in their respective countries, in their respective languages, and also to involve as much as possible the young people, because we need a young generation developing AI models. By the way, we already launched what we call the digital innovation for youth. It started in 2020, and we received from more than 200 young people across Africa very, very interesting projects, including AI projects, including the use of local languages. And these young people were very passionate about addressing local challenges and issues. So we are very very keen to address this kind of issues in our continent, but the biggest challenges today is we still have a lot of barriers. We still have we have, of course, this single digital market and this open market for Africa, but on the ground we still have borders, we still have need of visas, we still have a lot of challenges that we need to address to make sure that at the end, these young people will talk the same language, will understand each other's, and share their views, their positions, their cultures. And we are working to establish this kind of youth communities, women communities. We already have some African association partnering with ATU to develop this kind of platforms and frameworks, and really to push on the and also to bring on board our partners and our stakeholders, especially decision makers across countries, to really proceed with the implementation process. We do have a very good frameworks, but now regarding the funding of projects and to implement on the ground, it becomes sometimes challenging because some barriers in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. That was very encouraging, especially the youth project, the digital innovation project, because I think this is really a way forward for us. I've seen in the chat that people are commenting that regional processes seem to be get much more traction than continental processes. So I'll turn to you, Henry, from two directions. One is that as a region, even in your introduction, you said you know what the priorities are because you have a focus on markets, on trade, on really making it easier for people to trade together and to prosper together. So you have priorities. How do you translate these priorities for the digital realm? You know, there are things we can do together. For example, we have powerful money and financial applications, which could help trades happen more coherently across COMESA. So for you, what would be the digital priorities that would be very much aligned with your existing priorities? And what processes could we be having at the regional level that could then percolate upwards to the international level and help Africa be more assertive and carry real priorities to the processes ongoing globally?
Thank you so much, Catherine. First of all, let me talk about the advantages that we have as regional economic communities. I think it's an obvious one. It's because of our size. We are a bit smaller than the AU. When it goes to the AU level, it becomes more political, more politicized. So usually it takes time for it to sail through. But that said, once we identify our priorities, we targeted programs that we have always implemented in member states in order to actualize our objectives. But we need to bear in mind that we still have a lot of informal sector in Africa, and we also have a few, compared to the informal sector, we might not have very many large businesses, but I would not want to generalize all that for the War-COMESA region, because we have different countries, but in general, we tend to have more of informal sector. So we also have a large youth population. So whatever digital processes that we are going to come up with, they should take care of all those issues that we have an informal sector, we have a few large businesses, but we want to ensure that we support the informal sector so that they grow up into large businesses. This can be small cross-border traders who we want to improve them so that they become medium-sized enterprises, then they grow later on to become large-scale enterprises. So those tools need to be customized according to that. So I think the issue of contextualization becomes so much important, not forgetting that we have so much youth on the continent who need to have tailored programs for them so that they drive the continent, especially with these issues of cyberspace and all that. I think we all agree that the youth are the ones who are best positioned to drive the continent forward when it comes to all these new emerging technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry, and thank you for segueing us into that issue of youth talent and capacity building. So, Jovan, I'll turn to you again from two perspectives. One perspective is that even in the processes taking place digitally, the issue of capacity building always comes up. And I sometimes find it amusing because it means that you already know that the people who are engaging in this process don't have the full capacity to engage in it, meaning they don't yet know what they're talking about. So you are in the area of building the capacity of diplomats to engage in very many new areas of diplomacy. What should capacity building mean going forward, both in Africa, in Europe, and in other parts of the world? And should we really be putting it in the process, or should it be a precursor or a prerequisite to the process?
Good, Kate, it is, again, another good news, especially on AI. Confusion in policy, in diplomatic circles is equal among African, American, European, Chinese, and other diplomats. There is a huge confusion. Obviously, the big diplomacies have better scripting and notes, and they look more in charge. How we approach this, let's say for AI, impact on AI, we can speak on digital and security and the other things. We run AI apprenticeship program, and it is a very simple program. You develop AI assistants, agent, and while you're developing AI agent, you learn core concepts. What are the neural networks? What are the other issues that you have to negotiate and to discuss? Therefore, you can touch AI. Like apprentice, it's an old way of learning in all cultures, from the Grand Wall of China to pyramids. People were observing how others are doing and doing the same thing. Therefore, we are running it, and it's very popular and very effective way of learning because you learn by developing AI. I would advise that diplomats should learn in the whole process. And bad news is that you may learn something in advance and go and negotiate, but technology is changing very fast. It has to be a continuous process. Therefore, that's my advice. And I will just reflect on what Professor said on language. It is so critical. And I have 2 points here. I found the 3 words for knowledge in Swahili: Marifa, Uyuzi, Elimu. You will say if they're correct, and there is even saying knowledge is power, Marifa ni nguvu. Now, why is this important? For data, you probably have more difficulties to find the word, but for knowledge, there are words. If you observe carefully World Summit on Information Society, in 2003 and 2005, knowledge was the keyword. It was somehow clean, and today we speak about data governance and data. Now, with AI, it is paradoxical because AI is more about knowledge. Yes, we use data to train the models, but it's about knowledge. And the second and last point, especially for professors and teachers, I suggest that you discuss, I experimented it in my native language with my colleagues, you discuss AI in your native language, in my case in Serbian language, and by discussing it in your native language, you're basically removing all hype narratives, which are all over the meetings, and you're coming to the core meaning. Your mother tongue, what we experience about love, exploration of the world, about parents, about these things. Therefore, if you can teach AI, not in English, but in your native language, it could be French, Spanish, another language, you will train your way of rethinking and mental calibration, and you will better understand AI, because AI is less and less about technology. It's more and more about the core concepts, how we know what we know. Those would be my inputs on AI apprenticeship and importance of language. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Kubalia, for bringing us back to where we need to go. I'm sorry, my hand keeps appearing. I'll turn to Dr. Ndemo again, and it is on this issue of use of talents of learning. I attended an AI conference last year. There were 150 students in a certain university and about 30 faculty members. When they were asked who is using AI, all the students put up their hands, and maybe a third of the professors put up their hands. So even as Jovan is pointing us towards learning on the job and not learning before or learning after the job, but realizing that the way knowledge is changing, all of us have to become continuous learners and continuous users of technology. How is the university environment changing to make sure that not only the students, but also the professors are not only aware of this not only aware of technology, but using it in their day-to-day life? And then how will this help us create a new generation of people who are ready to go into these processes, who are ready to discuss all types of technology wherever they may be placed on the world stage, because they're not afraid to use, not just to learn, but also to use emerging technologies?
Very good question. And I've been saying, as I said, education needs to be transformed. And every indications are that AI would help us improve comprehension of what we are teaching, simply because adaptive learning, it gives you at your speed of comprehension, something which we never talked about previously. And if every student in class gets to learn and understand the concepts, there will be disaster, because the teachers are not used to being asked questions. And I must say here that AI is not going to eliminate teaching. The teachers still would come and discuss with students. And many schools, students don't discuss with teachers. Teachers dictate what they have, and that's it. That's where the friction is going to come. And already you're beginning to hear that AI is going to displace a lot of people from their jobs. But what is happening is that the relationship would change for the better, but nobody wants to understand that, because everybody is condemning AI, including the professors who are supposed to use it for research, to use it for many things in the classroom. So we have to have a huge number of people talking about it positively, that it's going to help us achieve more than we have ever done. I know how AI is condemned by older professors, that this thing is not, it's just people are going to remove this. I hope some of you in the audience have been teachers before. It's far much easier that we leverage AI, especially in a detailed exam taking, where you have to write, because across, I went to school in the US, UK, and in Kenya. Professors have the same problems of marking the exams, especially when it's essay type. This is where the students can respond, and then they get their responses immediately if AI was to be applied, and it will be a much fairer system and less abused like we abuse the normal systems where the lecturers or professors harass, especially women. So AI is going to do more than we have done, especially in education, in health, in agriculture, for example. I gave those two terms, productivity and data. If farmers understand those two concepts, things would change, because most farmers don't know how much we consume, how much we produce. And you have to have those numbers to know whether when you go to market, you will be able to get the market. So we must aspire to get those numbers to them. They understand how the dynamics of business work. We have a lot of work to do, and there is a lot of work in order for them to be competitive in today's market. Otherwise, we are going to be talking about food shortages, importing food from other parts of the world. That's why I'm so concerned that we need to simplify the language, as Johan said, so that we remove it from the tech, and let's talk about how do we remove poverty. Number one thing is to understand the data. Why are they poor? It's because there are growing things that cannot affect their lives, whereas they have an opportunity to do things which can be marketed and give them more resources. I could talk this in a much more detailed way, but simply that this is what I'm trying to say, that there are people who are stalling implementation of AI, talking alarmingly about AI, but this is the game changer, and we must look towards adapting it and finance it by ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ndemo. I'll turn to Miriam. Miriam, I don't know if you ever had to sell your technology. As Africans, we like talking to each other. So I suppose telecommunications was like a duck to water. Now going forward, I think I saw that maybe it was around 2 years ago when data surpassed voice as possibly the most profitable telecommunications business. How is ATU looking at the future? What is it that people will want to do through the critical infrastructure? I'm sorry, I seem to, oops. Just give me a moment. So Miriam, can you hear me? Can I be heard?
Yes, Katsu, you hear me.
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of phone calls. I don't know why. I never get phone calls, but suddenly. So how is telecommunications going to be in the future? And are we investing enough as a continent in our networks to enable us to meet the future?
Sorry, can you come again? Because I lost you because connectivity issue here in Tika.
Okay, I'm sorry about that,
Sorry,
Maria.
yeah.
I just said
Yeah,
that telecom has always done very well in Africa because we need to talk to each other. But I was going further and saying, what about the future? We've seen a move from voice to data. How are you anticipating the future needs of telecommunications? And also, how well are we investing? How well are we investing to meet this future telecommunications demand from the African continent?
Thank you, thank you. Indeed, now the most important objective of our organization is to provide meaningful connectivity for all Africans, meaning useful connectivity and affordable. Actually, internet, the coverage of telecommunications across the continent is over 80%, especially now having this space and satellite technologies, we are able to cover remote areas. But the issue is how to provide this connectivity to rural communities at affordable, having in mind that the average income of African individuals or families is around like $200. So technology will not is there. It's available, but how to address these affordability issues and also meaningful, meaning we need to develop our services at affordable costs, meaning we need to develop our applications in local content to make sure that all these people, the farmers who are talking Kiswahili or talking any language can use the technology and use the applications with a benefit for them, and also to afford to connect our schools, our communities. And this is the challenge and the objective of the African Telecommunication Union today, to bring the decision makers across Africa to look for funding, to pull together some resources. We've talked about cables, submarine cables. We need to look at the backhaul for those who are landlocked countries. So this is the issues we want to really address to make sure that the 60% unconnected people in Africa, in rural areas, especially the young people who need to be educated, they need to will be able to at least achieve this connectivity using emerging technologies, using new business models, looking at a new framework and how African countries can to come together addressing some connectivity challenges, and also to bring the academia in resolving these issues, because we need people to look at these concerns and come up with innovative way to address these challenges. And it's only academia, African academia can really deal with these ground issues. And also we have, as a big continent, resources and potential to fund our projects, but we need to have a common strategy, a long-term strategy with clear objectives, targets, and ATU is trying to bring all stakeholders to coordinate efforts among African organizations, among African stakeholders, among industry, to make sure that at the end we will really address these challenges and to bridge the digital gap in Africa. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for bringing us down to earth about the affordability of
Can I make a small comment on that?
The family or household level. Dr. Demo, I can see you. Is there something you wanted to interject?
A very quick comment.
Yes,
that
go ahead.
We shouldn't behave like we did during when mobile was beginning. We treated it like something out of space, and the telcos were they did not quite understand. Most of them have been wiped out. We are at the cusp of disruption, proper disruption, and the mobile companies need to raise up and either cover every part of the country, or citizens are going to revert to the new tech, direct satellite to link to the people at a very cheap cost. I know they can provide cheap broadband to people throughout the country. It's just that we protect businesses more than protecting our citizens. So what has happened now with SpaceX, it is for them now to fight for themselves. I remember we were trying to save Intelsat so that it doesn't, people were fearing about mobile and stuff. I think technology is now available to provide every citizen with the capacity. The problems are coming from governments which put duties and taxes on connectivity and stuff. That is where we need to fight, not to give other excuses that affordability. Affordability is not a problem if government removed taxes. And I remember we did that and it worked.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Dr. Demo has a fascinating story to tell of how Kenya moved from almost 6% digital access to a much higher rate of access by using innovative methods, thanks to Dr. Ndemo and others. I'll turn to you, Henry, and I will give time for audience questions. So please, Wende, could you be scanning the chat and just pick like 2 themes which we can use for the audience questions?
Kate,
I can see Dr. Kubalia, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I'll unfortunately have to leave this very interesting discussion. I have one concrete proposal, that as we are going to meet at IGF in December, and I think few useful ideas and threads were developed, especially this around language and education, and I will ask Mwende and Kate to propose this session that we discussed it during the Internet Governance Forum. let's say, session on language, importance of language, or importance of education, and we advance this discussion further. I would like to thank you all for great inputs, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Unfortunately, I have to leave now, but please continue, and hopefully, inshallah, see you in December in Nairobi. All the best. Bye.
Thank you so much, Yogan. Thank you. Thank you. So, Henry, I think you've had the discussion. So what's missing? If trade was really to take off in COMESA, the way you envisage, what should the digital world be providing commonly or individually in this region? What do you see as missing from your experience, Henry?
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's not different from what the previous speakers have stated. We always grapple with expertise. We always grapple with issues of infrastructure that is providing these platforms at a cost that is largely enhances accessibility of the different stakeholders. So that one, if you can allow me to use a word that has been commonly used these days, that is intentional. Authorities, I think, should just be intentional when it even comes to budgetary allocation, because talent moves hand in hand with rewards. If we have talent and you don't have sufficient rewards, that talent will be wasted. So whoever has talent should actually be rewarded. Whether we are dealing with universities, colleges to assist us in building these tools, whether we are dealing with incubation hubs, whether we are dealing with like what Jovan has said, apprenticeships to develop these tools, there should be enough rewards, there should be enough incentives. That's the only way we can promote digital tools. That's the only way we can promote the talent that we have. Without that, I don't think we'll be going anywhere. So these issues of expertise and infrastructure, they are basic, and they've been affecting regional integration. They've been affecting the promotion of emerging technologies for a long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry, for bringing together several threads that we've been discussing. So we're into our last 10 minutes, and possibly if we have at least one participant who could raise their hands, I'm sure we would have time for the panelists. So please address your question directly to the panelists who you'd like to address. So as we wait for participants to come forward with their questions, one of the things that has always disturbed me is that many processes taking place in Africa are externally funded by interested development partners. And sometimes I wonder whether that pushes us towards focusing on the priorities of other geographies rather than our own priorities. Dr. Ndemo, what should we be saying for our ministers and others, the parliaments, to be interested in funding African initiatives and African priorities? What can we say that would convince them that some of our money needs to go in this direction?
Africa has got a lot of resources, and there are new ways of looking at funding a number of things that we do, but we haven't quite stayed close to innovators and the young people attempting new ways of doing. We look at the discussion about energy sovereignty. We have so much resources in energy, geothermal, and nobody has ever thought about that. We don't want money from outside the country to develop that. because if tokenize the resource, we can get someone to actually build the stuff and partner with the government. But those discussions are not on the table. There are several ways of doing things, but they are not done in a way of avoiding aid money. And you know for sure at some point, every dollar that was brought to Kenya or to any African country, $2 left the continent. It's not free money. It's expensive money. So we need to think out of the box and begin to fund some of the projects. And that is what creates independence and pride in terms of development.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndemo. I'll turn to Miriam now with almost the same question. Where is the money going to come from? And can it come from our own internal resources? And what is the story we tell to make sure that the money comes from here and stays here?
You know, HU is a governmental-based organization, 90% funded by the governments. But when it comes to really, of course, we are focused on capacity building programs. We are facilitating coordination among. But when it comes to build projects and to fund projects, members cannot afford because we don't have a clear African strategy with clear initiatives, coordinated initiatives. We still managing our issues in silos. Each country is dealing with its own challenges. But if we come together as a continent, put together resources, expertise, and try to really build Africa for future, I think this vision will really, but for now, we don't have this kind of platform. If you compare with European Union, they are not only a political institution, but they are economic. They are discussing their economic challenges and come up with the common strategy for the whole continent. Yet Africa is not having this kind of vision to come together, put resources together, and address challenges together. We have very good countries, big countries with a very good experience that could, of course, supporting other countries, pooling resources, infrastructure, expertise. But yet we don't have this kind of platform. Even at, I don't know, at sub-regions like ECOWAS and the DRX, they're doing something, but not yet mature for really building the future. And the other thing, if we really want to address the future, let's make education free in Africa, everywhere, because without education, we'll suffer criminality, we'll suffer poverty, we'll suffer. Education is the key instrument to develop the continent. And I stopped here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Miriam, for reminding us about the basics and the importance of working together. So Henry, I'll let you have the last word in this discussion. Does COMESA see any money problem? And if they do, where should the money be coming from? How do you get at
it? Thank you so much. Money should not be a problem in Africa. I agree with the previous speakers. There've been so many proposals that have been put on the table to ensure that there's sufficient money even for regional projects. One of them has been a certain percentage, like 0.5% from all.
We have lost Henry. We lost Henry.
Yeah, we look like we have lost him. But there's a
Yeah,
hand
as
raised.
we wait for Henry to come back, Mwende, is there any burning issue that is there in the chat? I haven't seen any hand raised.
There's a hand raised by Stephanie. Maybe she can be, the media team can assist her to unmute.
Sorry, I can barely hear you, Mwende. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. I was saying there's a hand up by Stephanie and Henry is back.
Oh, Henry is back. Then let him finish. Henry, please continue. Henry, can we hear you?
He needs to be
Yes,
unmuted.
Henry, could you unmute, please?
I think he disappeared again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will not turn on my video. I think that's the one that could be affecting me. So I was saying there were so many regional initiatives and strategies to ensure that money is easily raised, like a 0.5% tax on VAT for all countries, so that contributions become easier. Then the other way has been specialized institutions. We have so many specialized institutions at African Union level. Maybe let's talk about the Counterterrorism Center, PCRD Center. We have so many specialized institutions at commercial level, Commercial Business Council, Commercial Monetary Institute, Commercial Competition Commission. We can also have a center for modern technologies, whether you want to call it AI and all that, just to ensure that we promote the strengthening and capacity building of modern technologies. Specialized institutions are the best way when it comes to also promoting the expertise on issues of emerging technologies. I want to give examples of maybe also countries that have been that have advanced in the commercial region. For example, Rwanda, they have deliberately ensured that they promote issues to do with emerging technologies. I was reading somewhere and I heard that they've developed large language models to help in agriculture and so forth and so forth. So it starts from that specialization, specialized institutes, and pulling resources together using these different strategies that have been proposed. And I think we'll be good to go. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Henry, for that, and for giving us hope and also pointing us to how much capacity and how many institutions we already have in place. So now we're just 2 minutes from the end. I have tried to look at the chat. I know there's somebody who wanted us to talk about quantum. I can just reassure you that we do look at the contents of the chat, and they help us to draw up future topics. So even if we didn't really get around to your interest at this time, please continue joining us on these webinars, and I'm sure we'll address your burning issues. Now, Jovan started us off by telling us that diplomacy is about interests, and sometimes we don't focus on specialized areas, but we just talk about how countries work together to represent and promote the common interest in the diplomatic field, and this includes digital. There are other words that have come up like fragmentation. So clearly we need to come together as Africans, set our priorities, and represent them on the international stage. Education is key, capacity building is key, so that we understand not only how we want, what we want, but how to express it and how to promote it. And the last thing I'll focus on is funding. Everyone has said we have enough resources. All we need to do is to bring them together to serve our interests. So thank you very much once again for joining us on a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndemo. I know how busy you are, and to give us 1.5 hours is amazing. And your insights on language and other very important issues have been excellent. Thank you, Miriam, from the African Telecommunications Union. You've enlightened us about many things going on in the telecommunications realm, and you've really given us hope for the future of not just telecommunications in Africa, but the future of our youth and their innovations. Thank you, Henry, for giving us a very broad view of COMESA and the things that it can do for us in the future, and what you're already doing to make sure that our markets are connected and prosperous. I don't know if any of you have one word, so that I don't have the last word. Henry, what's one word you could use to encourage us as Africa as we go forward?
I think it could be, maybe because I'm coming from a regional organization, I would talk of continue to speak with one common voice, so that even when we are negotiating at other fora, we always speak with one voice. Thank you.
Okay, one voice. It's 2 words, but we know what you mean. Miriam, what's your word?
Thank you for giving us this opportunity and this very interesting conversation today. For me, digital is our future, so don't miss the future. So this is the future of our children, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Digital future is how I'll summarize that. And Dr. Ndemo, I'm giving you the last word.
I'll only say that let's find creative financing models to finance some of these critical initiatives in the digital space.
Thank you. So there you have it. One voice, a digital future, and the finance. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week. Thank you, Arvin and technical team, Wende, and everyone who has participated. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.